Good morning from Blendon Woods. We're at Treadmill TV, going on a social distance hike again. We're at Blendon Woods Metro Park, which is small enough that, kind of like yesterday, it's not a good place to actually run. You should just hike and enjoy the trail the way it is. We're going to be going to Thoreau Pond, and up at the pond there's a couple of blinds where you can just look out over the lake. So we'll do that and get started. For some YouTube fans, this park may be somewhat familiar. My local YouTube legend is Coyote Peterson, and this is the park where he got his start. We're going to Thoreau Pond, which is where he would dig up snapping turtles and catch all sorts of creatures, which is what he got known for, is the snapping turtles, because in addition to catching them, he actually let one bite his arm and has let lots of other things bite and sting him for your viewing pleasure. So that's where we are today. When we get into the bird blind, you can see the plaque on the wall, donated by Coyote Peterson and his team. It's a brisk day out today. Got tricked into thinking it was going to be spring in Ohio, but Sunday it was super sunny. It was in the 60s. Windy, but sunny and warm. And now we're back into the 40s, which is probably the most depressing part of living in Ohio, is the gray skies all winter and all spring. If you live in northern Ohio, you get lake effect snow, and so you get a true winter. But if you live south of Mansfield, you just don't get as much snow. You don't get as much white, puffy winter days, and you just get these gray winter days. But hopefully that's coming to an end. Later in this week, we'll get some sun and we'll get to enjoy that together. We'll make it work whichever way. That is one of the fringe benefits of being a runner. Not just tan skin, but that vitamin D that you get from baking in the sun while you're outdoors. I don't know who's old enough to watch it. I'm assuming that if you're old enough to be working out on a treadmill, it's either because you're with your kids at home or something like that. But Seinfeld had an episode where Kramer went to Los Angeles to become an actor, and during the episode you could see him just doing his morning routine in the bathroom, and he had his shirt off, and he had the most distinct beater burn. So those undershirts that are tank top shaped are often called beaters, wife beaters. That's a bad name for it, but it is what it is. Good morning. And apparently he had worn a tank top for so long that it gave him a super distinct suntan line right in that area. And when I was a teenager, I thought that was so funny. I did that on purpose. And over spring break, I wore a tank top every day and got a really distinct tan line in the shape of a tank top. And to this day, the hair on my chest and shoulders grows in the same exact shape as that tank top sunburn. So I have Kramer to thank for shaping my hairline on my chest. Too much information, but still funny. So there's two blinds here, obviously left and right. And if I remember right, the one with the plaque is up this way. The Treadmill TV Instagram account, I've posted a couple of photos from here. Again, I haven't recorded any runs here, but it is just such a nice park to visit. And it's a good place to take bird photos. Lots of turkeys here. Speaking of which, we'll start to whisper because there are turkeys here and blue jays. So we'll get up to the blind and take a closer look. Looks like 3 hens. So there's the turkeys, the cardinal, and of course the squirrel to steal the seeds. But this is one of the reasons I like this place. Kids love to see the turkeys. Of course, Thoreau Lake is out here. And here's that plaque from Coyote Peterson. This is the swamp monster that started his YouTube career. 60-year-old snapping turtle, 50 pounds, 4 feet long. And I guess he lives, it's hard to tell from that map. I guess he must live out in the middle somewhere. Back on out. And there's our turkeys. Been thinking about next week a lot, trying to figure out what kind of mileage I want to do. I am taking it easy yesterday and today to sort of prepare for doing a longer mileage week. The other duck blind looks exactly like that one and doesn't have the plaque that I wanted to show you, so we're just going to go one of the other trails. And if I'm right, the Sugarbush Trail is another lollipop trail. So that means a single path out that does a loop right at the end, then back on the single path again. So we'll go check that out. I was kind of annoyed when I got here because there's a little girl. Obviously these parents are trying to get some exercise for themselves and get their daughter out. But there's this little girl, didn't want to put her coat on, so they're having a to-do in the parking lot. Just, alright, if you're not going to put a coat on, we're going to leave. I don't want to leave. Okay, well, put your coat on. I don't want to. So they were going back and forth, and in my younger years, I would have been not understanding of that. But now, I'm that guy in a restaurant that doesn't notice when his own kids are misbehaving. There's another turkey. A lot of turkeys here. Morning. There are more turkeys at the bird blind to the right. everybody's trying to get out, trying to be safe. It is so tempting right now to get one of these $99 plane tickets to anywhere. Especially when you live in the Midwest and it's super gray, not warm, not cold, not snowy, not sunny. It's so tempting to get on a plane, but in addition to not wanting to get myself or my family sick, I especially don't want to get anyone older than me sick. My parents, my in-laws, my grandparent-in-laws. Last thing I want to do is be responsible for transmitting some killer germ to an elder adult. It's also annoying thinking, is that allergies? I think we'll have most of the trail to ourselves today. Because of the weather and because of the shelter-in-place orders, essential employees only have been able to have a little more time to do this with you. I'm hoping that I'm providing something valuable for everybody. I'm also trying to grow and make more videos to enrich people's running experience when they're indoors. So this is the start of the trail, the nature center, the map. Everything seems quiet now. Of course, the nature center is closed right now, but it is a nice little education center. They've got pelts, they've got turtle shells, they've got an aquarium, terrarium. So I'm going to double check on the trail map before we continue straight through the parking lot. So we are here. We went up to the pond and back. Then we should be able to go do that lollipop trail right back here. To the left of where we are is another trail. It's the dog walking trail. I think that's the only trail that you are allowed to walk dogs on, but a word of advice for anybody that's coming here with either with a dog or with kids, that trail is the least improved of any of them here. So when I was here, it hadn't rained within a couple of days, but it was still muddy enough that we had to take our shoes off to get in the car. Alright, got our first 15 minutes of hiking in. one thing I was thinking about this morning in regards to my own running and getting back into shape and getting strong again is the mental aspect of running. And kind of like how it's attributed to Einstein that he said that 90% of success is showing up. I feel like that same thing is true of running. It's 90% mental. And of course, people make jokes about that, saying running is a mental sport. Well, crazy. It's funny, but it's kind of a good way to just get across the message too, that it's a battle between what your brain is telling you that you can do and what your legs are telling you what they want to do. The real breakthrough that I had was when my coach in high school, Daryl Bell, still coaching to this day and also mentoring coaches in his ministry, he told me, well, if you're going to throw up, get it over with and then get back running. Yeah, this one's muddy too. So I think that was the last time when I went through a workout, not without complaint, but the last time I went through a workout and was ready to give up. Well, we'll take this side trail. Especially as a teenager, I would get into a workout and I'd get behind pace, get down on myself mentally. I'd start, thinking, this is terrible, this sucks. These other guys have it so easy because they're hitting their times. But the thing that I didn't realize as a kid is they're all doing the same sufferfest as I am, but they're either A, blowing through it because they have the experience to be able to say, I've done this before, I can get through this again, or they do just have the understanding that if I want to get better, I have to push my body to do things that might not be comfortable. And the other 10% of your body doing the work that the mind tells it to, there is a fine line between pushing through discomfort and pushing through pain. So the last thing you want to do is push through an injury, because especially with running, they start small, but then if you don't give yourself a break, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse until the injury is just so bad that you have to take a month or more off of running. The only real downtime I had competitively was when I did that exact thing. I had a pain in my ankle, which turned out to be a stress fracture, and I knew that something was wrong. I didn't know that it was a stress fracture necessarily, but it was one of those passing thoughts. But I kept going, kept training, and eventually it got so bad that I couldn't touch my ankle without recoiling in pain. So the doctor put me in a walking boot, and that's what I did. I walked. In the long run, that was a good thing for my college career. It's in the NAIA, which is what Malone was a member of until they moved to Division II NCAA. NAIA schools are the only division with race walking, which is an Olympic event, and my dad was my race walking apologist, not as in apology saying sorry, but apology as in defending what you're doing or what you're thinking, believing. So he was the race walking apologist for a long time, because he'd tell people, because I would make fun of it, I would make fun of myself because it is silly looking. I would make fun of it, and then if anybody else smiled or kind of winked about it, I would say it's just like cart horse racing. You know, it's an imposed handicap so that you all have to go as fast as you can with that limitation. Or it's just like a stroke in swimming. You know, the backstroke isn't the fastest, or the breaststroke isn't the fastest, but there's still an Olympic event with that stroke. So my dad became the defender of the race walk in that sense. And if I hadn't gotten injured, I definitely would not have tried it. But because I did get injured, and in addition to getting injured, I was still mentally wanting to be part of a team, mentally wanting to compete. I did race walking, and the third year I did it, was able to get All-American in the 3K indoor and outdoor 5K. The last time I did outdoors, we did mustationals for nationals, and this was at least a year or two before Flow Track started doing stashies for nashies. So I claim full credit for people growing mustaches. This was, what year is this? 2006. We did mustationals for nationals with the race walking men's team. The girls tried to grow mustaches. Didn't work. And this may be another reason why they say no jogging at this park, is just because it's nearly impossible. It hasn't rained in a couple of days. It was really windy on Sunday. I thought it'd be dry. If you've gotten 23 minutes into this video, comment down below, what was your breakthrough moment when you decided that your mental toughness was going to be stronger than your physical weakness? Like I said, it's when my coach told me just throw up and get on with it. What finally made you decide, I'm not going to stop and walk, or I'm not going to give up on this, I'm going to stick it through? It's like a lot of people that are doing 5Ks as adults, they didn't necessarily run in high school or college. So once softball is over in college, it's really hard to get 10 people together to play a real game of softball, except in beer leagues and whatnot. It's really easy to go out on a run by yourself. You don't have to schedule anything with anybody. You don't have to bring equipment. You don't have to reserve a field. You just go out. So I think that's why so many people, they don't necessarily begin a running habit because they love the idea of running, but in order to maintain some good health, some sanity, once you have a kid or two, or 3, or 5, running is often a very good remedy for all those things. Maintaining activity, maintaining sanity, and then also sometimes meeting up with a friend and maintaining a friendship. next week, I'd like to get on the bike for a couple of days. One of the topics that I want to talk about while I'm riding the bike is, I guess, how runners can use bicycling or rollerblading or other sports to get going. And of course, I'm thinking about this as soon as I finished talking about how other sports kind of dry up. I guess team sports tend to dry up after a certain age. Crossing the road, I'm just turning my head because I think this is the reservable picnic area. I see the road block sign there because you're not supposed to be back here unless you have a reservation, and nobody's really getting a reservation right now. Alright, let's see how good my balance is. Yay, didn't fall. This is full cross-country spike territory. Ooh, left or right? Left or right, Marty? Is this, I think this is the lollipop loop. So that's the actual convergence of them. I guess I'll soldier through. Just last week, I got a tiny amount of mud on my shoes and decided to walk through a creek to get them clean because I'd rather have them wet than muddy. As soon as I try to do that to maintain the look of my shoes, I come to a place like this and totally redeem myself. Now we're getting in the thicket too. It's either walk in the mud or rip your coat in the thorns. Since we got on this trail, there's not been anyone else here. I thought I scared a woman in the parking lot. She had just gotten out of her car. She saw me, and then it looked like her eyes got real big, and she went back to her car. Looked like she was going to get something. Because I thought she may have mistaken the camera for a pistol at that distance. She may have just remembered something as soon as she started walking away from her car, but felt a little worried. So that did happen once with a different handheld camera. Somebody thought I had a gun in a mall parking lot. My friend that was with me said that he got within inches of grabbing me by the neck from behind until he saw that the thing I was holding had a screen attached to it. It wasn't a pistol. Yesterday I tried to improve the sound quality of the video by putting a separate microphone on my vest. I got this microphone probably a year ago, and it connects to a smartphone through the headphone jack. But now, a year later, I've gotten a new phone that doesn't have a headphone jack. So I got the old iPod Touch out of the drawer, charged it. Amazingly still holds the battery. Morning. And the iPod Touch accepted the headphone jack, recorded everything on the voice memo, but it is such an old piece of technology that when I tried to sign into my email account or any other account, it says that it is so old that the security protocol won't allow me to use it. So I had 30 minutes of audio on my old iPod Touch and no way to retrieve it. So come up with another backup plan. Kind of like this trail. Oh boy, thorns. Ooh. Fun thing about the mud is that you can see all sorts of animal tracks. Ooh, that's deep there. Not fun thing about the mud is the mud. That is a long way. I do see the end of this puddle. I just don't understand it. How is it this muddy? I regret this. Ooh, that's slurpy. My 12-year-old self would be loving this. My 35-year-old self, not so much. Here's the creek that overflowed that's causing all this mud. Oh, just go through it. Alright, a little bit of grass finally. I think it'd be worse than what was at the beginning. I turned right because I figured the part that was muddy that I could see was going to be the part I get over with first. Oh, now it's just wet. Oh, there. Now the socks are wet. All right. It's one last little trick up its sleeve. Little thanks for visiting. I got through it with almost just mud, and the last 2 steps was up above the tongue of my shoe, so it's wet. Not the most interesting thing to listen to, I'm sure. Next week I'm thinking about the types of things we can talk about. One thing I do while I'm driving in the car or getting ready to fall asleep, I do listen to a lot of podcasts. When I was coaching, I was trying to learn as much as I could about training, nutrition, physiology, all sorts of topics. I listened to a podcast by Ben Greenfield, and it was very good information, but the thing that I disliked about it was that his voice and the way he spoke reminded me of a kid who was late to hit puberty, because he has a deep voice, but the way he speaks reminds me of a kid who's trying to sound like he has a deep voice when he doesn't actually have a deep voice. And it really irritated me. I think I eventually got over it, but it took a while, because he is a super smart guy, very good athlete from what I can tell too. But you know how that is. There's all sorts of reasons to like something, with one reason not to, and that's all you can focus on, is that one reason not to like something. I guess you could say I used my mental toughness to try to listen to the podcast. Oh. Alright, back toward the end of the loop. Oh, and it's wet and muddy. That whole thing was just a slip and slide. I think I'm going to stick to the trails I know for a long while. Just go through the middle. There's no point now. I thought you were going to do the balance beam with a child in your hands. Yeah. That would have been good. Alright, that's the end of the loop. Thank goodness. That was wet and muddy. Trying to shed some gloves right now. Started with them because it is chilly enough, but now that I've gone 30 minutes or 40 minutes, however long it's been, I've definitely warmed up. I keep daydreaming of all the different places I'd rather be. 1 year ago, spring break, we visited our college friend and her husband from in Hawaii. She married a military man, and they were stationed there for, I think he had a double stay, so it's for 4 years. So before he was transferred to DC, visited them and had a trip of a lifetime. A, they were super good hosts. B, they're in Hawaii. So if you're daydreaming of going someplace like I am, hopefully for the next few weeks, the virtual visit we'll have to do while we were in Hawaii. Did several videos, a couple on the beach, a couple of hikes up to old military pillboxes. Diamond Head, the old dormant volcano, and Cocoa Crater, another dormant volcano, and Makapu Lighthouse Trail, which was the prettiest one in my opinion. It's a paved path, so made for a smooth trail, smooth run. But most of the time, you were within a few feet of this beautiful, beautiful seaside cliff. In most of the 48 states, if you think of a lighthouse, it's this 4 or 5 story tall structure, cylinder shaped. So when we got to the top, I was expecting to see that exact same thing, but instead what I saw once we got to the top was that I had to look down, and there's this squatty little cylinder building with a light in it, but nothing like I was used to. It's closer to the water than the cliff top was, which makes sense. There's just a difference in expectations, I guess. Tomorrow there's a possibility of some sunshine in the afternoon, so I took my daughter out running last week. I think this week I'll take my older son out for his little bike ride run. Just trying to decide where to go. I'll definitely not come here. There's no bikes allowed, but the reason there's no bikes allowed is because it would be the saddest bike ride you've ever taken. It is fun to ride through mud, but it's fun to ride through mud on hills, not drag your bike through the mud. Oh, this is the nice trail that I was expecting. Gravel, roots, trees. Since I've been working less and home more, been getting a lot of home chores done, also known as the honey-do list. My wife is such a strong woman that a lot of times the honey-do list doesn't drag on for a long time, because she'll ask me to do it once, and I'll let one opportunity slip through my fingers to do it. So, one weekend where I could have done it, but I didn't do it. So instead of asking me to do it twice, she just does it herself, and gives me the look without looking, if that's a thing. So while she's been homeschooling, well, not necessarily homeschooling, online learning for our oldest, and then homeschooling the other 2 boys, she hasn't had the opportunity to give me the look without a look for not doing some of the things. So I can probably say that this past weekend I did accomplish resealing the shower stall. No more water leaking around the edges for me. In that same amount of time, my wife has probably done 3 projects without telling me. It's the, I'm telling you I did this without telling you. Look. By the way, I love my wife. This isn't complaining. This is a humble brag about my wife not waiting around for help or waiting around for me to do something. One place we haven't gone back to is High Banks. On the catalog of videos, I've visited High Banks several times. I think the initial recording there, which is just in HD, not 4K ultra high def, is the second most popular video I have behind the Grand Canyon. But then I've also visited with a better camera without as much looking side to side. And I went back in the fall when the leaves were really pretty. Went back in the spring when the blossoms were there. It's just one of my favorite places to run. So I guess that's the type of trail that I was expecting when I came here today. And that part of the trail reminds me of it. Alright, my shoes are starting to dry out, so I'm going to take this little side loop. It's the same park system. I wonder what the difference is between, or if this is just, if I picked the worst or least improved trail here. The rest of the trails are probably magnificent. I'm just too dopey to figure that out. I think today's hike may be about an hour long once we get to the parking lot, so I'm not going to explore the other trails today. Maybe what I will do is come back here tomorrow and give the other trails a fair shot. Most of the time when I come here, it's with the kids because they love to go to the bird blinds and look out at the pond, look at the turkeys. So I've been on the paved trail plenty of times, but that's as far as I've explored. So I think we'll probably be back here tomorrow, maybe catch some sunshine, but we also got to figure out a day where I can run and not just hike. Here we can see the nature center. Maybe it's just this half of the park that's flooded because the dog walking path that I mentioned earlier is on the same side of the nature center. Once we get to the pavement, we'll call it quits. and you can appreciate the ability to run from home or hike from home so that you don't have to stuff newspaper in your shoes or them in the washing machine. So here we are, and that's how my brand new shoes look after all that. Oh well, that's what they're for, right? So from Blendon Woods, thanks for walking with me today. Stay safe and keep taking care of each other.